I owed the client $100,000. What used to take years now takes minutes. I helped them grow from 300 locations to over 1,000 and ultimately bring on private equity and go public.
So Nate, you spent 3 years building your own marketing agency before you grew Army 8, right? Your next marketing agency. You grew Army 8 to about 30 people, but you kind of saw a ceiling in that model. So you tore down Army 8 and you rebuilt the whole thing as a SaaS product, which is fascinating. That SaaS product is now Bobos AI. And with Bobos, you built back that client base in literally half the time it took you to build Army 8. And it's just you plus one more person and a bunch of freelancers. So Nate, if you think back to a lot of folks listening to this have this oh shoot moment where they realize like, hey, this is a real business now. I have to hire, I have way more demand than I can handle, right? Tell me about the first time you felt that. What was that like for you?
Well, my first time was with my first company, jets.com. So, first of all, I was really young. I was still in my 20s. And I started a private jet charter website. You have to understand, this is back in 1999. So before really mass adoption, no iPhones, right? Google wasn't even around back in 1999, right? So I spent a lot of time programming a two-sided platform where the private jet operators could load their jet availability, in particular those one-way empty leg flights, and paying customers, looking for charter flights would come in and they'd post their trips, and then there'd be a way for them to match and kind of like an auction format. And I built this out and didn't have a lot of success for like 2 years. I built it in 99. I struggled, really, really struggled for a couple of years, but I made a ridiculous number of telephone calls. And so I got the name out there quite effectively. And then 9/11 happened. And when 9/11 happened, for those of you that remember, they shut down the entire airspace over the entire country. So there was nothing for me to do or any of my employees to do. I thought the entire company was gone because all of a sudden everything was shut down. But then 3 days later, all of a sudden we get a telephone call. One of my salespeople actually did. And the telephone call was, hey, we're opening up the private jet airspace. And they're opening that up before they opened up commercial airspace. I don't know why they did that, but they did. And so all of a sudden, literally everybody started calling us. Now, we had back then 7 incoming telephone lines. These were hardwired lines back in 1999. And all lines would ring, all nonstop. And I would answer one call and I'd be talking to someone. I'd hang up. It would be ringing and I'd have 2 voicemails. It was that crazy. And we booked $1 million in business in less than a week. And it really just continued to accelerate from there because everybody was stranded. Everybody had to find a way home, and private jet was really the only alternative. There was no other alternative. And so we were out there pitching one-way travel over and over again. Now, that sounds like great news, right? But the oh shoot moment was, well, now I've got to fund this. I have to put a credit card down in order to make sure I can then get that plane reserved. And so what I had to do is on each one of these flights, get them to waive it and say, look, I don't have all of the money right now. And I had to beg, but I have this client, and I would be very transparent with them on who the client was, and they need to get back. I have their credit card information. I'm charging it. I will wire as soon as it clears. And through begging and borrowing, and I built up relationships again over those first 2 years, I was able to pull that off. But it was a real oh shoot moment. I almost lost the business and had that rapid growth. We eventually grew that business to over 42 million a year in revenue.
Jeez. And so you had $1 million in a week,
Yeah.
but you had to personally put up, how much money did you have to personally put up on your credit card?
It was literally everything I had, every credit card I had, and my wife had. We literally just put down every credit card, every piece of credit we had to book those flights, and it still wasn't enough. And that's when I had to go around begging.
What was that like? Was that terrifying or exciting?
Both. I knew I was going to have some business out of it anyway from the funds that I had myself. But I also have to give credit to Amex. I called Amex begging them too, and they bumped up my limit as well to make it happen too. So across the board, I was able to get it all to work, but it certainly was not easy.
So what happened after that?
Oh, it was rapid growth from there on out. And I went out and I went from we had 3 or 4 people, and we grew to 11 people in like 2 or 3 months, which I don't recommend to anybody because we had 3 people trying to train 7. And the industry was so specific, right? There's way
Yeah,
too much to learn in aviation, and that
yeah.
took way too long. It actually set us back quite a bit. It took us another year to kind of digest that, and we grew. I think in that next year in 2001, no 2002, we did just under 7 million that year, and but it continued to grow, just skyrocket from there.
Jeez. Um, and then so how did you get from what made you decide? So now you sell Jets.com and you start a marketing agency. Um, what did you see at your marketing agency that said, "Hey, I'm hitting a ceiling and I want to convert this to a SaaS"?
Yeah, well, first of all, I had another agency before Army 8, and that one was actually built on the back of Planet Fitness. Planet Fitness, some of the
What?
owners, the founders, I knew through mutual friends through my jet contacts, and ultimately I helped them grow from 300 locations to over 1,000, and ultimately bring on private equity and go public. And
Okay.
which was a lot of fun. I mean, especially in the early days, but the scalability was a really big problem there too. Matter of fact, it got to the point where I owed them. So this is a client I owed $100,000 to because they wanted me to have an office in downtown Boston. And in downtown Boston is real estate is not cheap, as you can imagine, but they wanted a place where they were not embarrassed to send their franchisees to say, hey, go talk to the marketing company, right? And when it was really, Nate. so so I had to get an office and I had to hire a bunch of people, and same kind of thing, like out of the gate. And you say sold jets.com. Well, I did sell jets.com technically, but it was a financial collapse that ended jets.com. So it's not like I walked out with a huge check. We had heavy client concentrations with Bear Stearns, Lehman Brothers, and
Oh,
Bernie Madoff's network. So the
wow.
whole thing collapsed down in like a 6 month period. So it's not like I had big money there for the Planet Fitness account. So anyway, so I basically leveraged. I had some partnerships. I had like a bunch of people that I brought in as partners in order to build that up and have the right staff to make that happen. And I some of them we all threw in a little bit of cash so that we could build up the office space and everything else. But then the cash flow of adding, we had to add all these franchisees into the system and do all of their marketing, and that required us to hire before the business came in and get the training right and build the software out to be able to manage it. You didn't have anything off the shelf back then, back in 2010, 2011. So we had to build it all, and that required more funds too. So we got in the hole about $100,000 with the client, and we had some late payers, and it just stuck us. And I had to go into corporate and apologize, say I didn't have the 100,000 yet. I eventually did, but it took a few months for me to be able to get it.
No way. Wait, let me get this right. So, um, this is a wild story.
It
Um,
is.
okay, so Jets.com, you have a concentration of Bear Stearns,
The worst possible
Bernie
place. Yes.
Madoff. Like it was the worst place. Wherever you're invested today, I'm not investing. Tell me where you're going.
Good call.
Right.
Oh, good call.
Um, okay, so financial crisis comes, collapse,
Yeah.
you go down with it,
Yep.
right? And you say, okay, shoot, Jets.com crashed, but you're able to exit. And now you say, plane crash and you got out. And so you say, okay, I'm good at this marketing thing. Let me try marketing. And I've got this connection with Planet Fitness. Planet Fitness says, hey, I'm looking for a marketer. And I imagine they're expecting a full mega agency, and it's you.
No,
Uh,
it started actually no as a personal relationship with the one of the
yeah.
founders, Chris Rondo. And it just it turned into like can you help me out with this one thing, and that one thing turned into two things, and the two things turned into it just kept growing and growing and growing, and I just worked really hard and would try to be as helpful as I could, and it got to the point where I was working out of their offices 2 days a week, just right in their offices. I had a little cubicle there, and It was so much
Yeah,
fun. Great people there too. They were so much fun.
that's awesome. And so it got to a point where Chris said, um, "Hey, you can't work out of your out of your house anymore.
Right.
People need to come see that you are a real business. Can you get a place in Boston?"
Yeah. Yeah, that allowed us to hire some really good talent there too that were local, like
Uh,
lots of MBA students and those kinds of people, really smart people we were able to hire and train our way, which again took a little while, but we worked really, really hard for those franchisees and the franchise owners. I really ended up because remember then Planet Fitness went from this like really like gritty founders who were just hustlers like me. Like I really
yeah,
felt like a kindred spirit with them, right? But then
yeah,
they grew when they brought in private equity to a much different kind of a culture and a different kind of an organization.
got it.
But all the franchisees were still kind of that gritty, hardworking, like, hey, let's roll
Yeah,
up our sleeves and get stuff done, which is again very much like me. And so it was tremendous amount of fun with all of them, but there were definitely a lot of challenging times with that too, because I think it was 100 and something franchisees at the time, and all of them had my personal phone number, and I'm meeting with all of them, individually too. So talk about scalability issues, like it became very apparent that is not how do I add a second account or a third account, right? It becomes
right,
next to impossible to do.
right. Yeah, so got it. So you have, so it's like you have a heavy concentration in Planet Fitness, obviously, but at the same time, each franchisee is an account to you, right? I'm sure that's how you saw it, which was like you
Yeah.
treated it like each, not like you have one mega client, but you have 100 franchises, and you have to
And
treat
it
each
actually
one
ended
like
up
a
working
client.
out that way because when the private equity
Yeah,
money came in, they didn't want Nate, they wanted Arnold. You know what I mean? The huge Boston, ad agency. And
right.
so I got pushed out of corporate because of that. But I maintained those franchisee relationships. As a matter of fact, I still have a lot of those relationships even today. They're such
That's
great,
awesome.
fun people.
Okay, and so you have these Fitness franchisees, and for some reason you saw a ceiling to that model, and you wanted to switch to SaaS. What was the ceiling, and why did you switch to SaaS?
It's me personally, right?
Mm,
It's difficult to scale yourself. Now at jets.com, I had 10 years and I was able to train a lot of people who became as or more productive than myself. And they're still in the industry today, like doing amazing things as a result of those early days. But it takes a lot of methodical training to get somebody up to speed. Now with AI, the training time has just been compressed. You and I were talking about this earlier. It's like I don't have to explain all the details. All I have to do is send the prompts. I send the
yeah.
prompts that I've already experimented with. I already know how they work, and I already know what I'm trying to get out of the result. I send them the prompts, and they're trained. So what used to take years now takes minutes.
And so let's nerd out about this a little bit because a lot of listeners kind of have maybe a lot of agency folks or ecom businesses, and they tend to have AI flows as well. Um, and so when you say training these folks, um, what that looked like before was literally SOPs or training courses that you would kind of teach people along, and then have performance to make sure that they continue to do it ongoing.
Correct.
Um, and you said something interesting, which was performance today or training today is I send you the prompt or Claude skill, right? The actual the
Right.
skill packaged up, and you just run the skill, right? Um, what does that look like today? Like, what does training look like today?
So to give you an example, I still get on every call with my clients, and so on those calls they're recorded, and on those recorded we take the transcript, and those are fed into the AI as well. But I will have my right hand person on those telephone calls as well, and
Yep.
she will obviously be listening in and hear the way that I handle certain topics. But then at the end of the call, there'll be a series of deliverables that I've promised to the client, and every single one of those deliverables, there are almost every single one. There's a set of prompts that will drive them, such as foundational. Let's say foundational. We're going to onboard a new client. We might ask them a few simple questions. We grab those questions, or we'll grab it off of their website. We plug it into a bunch of series of prompts and tools that we built on Bobos AI, which are free actually. You plug in your URL, it'll generate your customer persona, your content pillars, your brand voice. Like something like that used to take me days, even weeks to put together for a client is now done in 10 minutes. So all I have to do is show this new person how to work that new system. I don't have to teach them 30 years of marketing experience of how you generate proper positioning for a go-to-market strategy. You follow me?
Yeah, and the reason I'm philosophizing for a sec is I imagine the training shifts a little bit. So let's use a go-to-market as an example. Say I have go-to-market consultants who are creating go-to-market plans for Planet Fitness franchisees, right? I imagine that I'd take everything I know and put it into a skill, box it into an AI skill. And I hand the go-to-market consultant this box of AI skills and go, this is what you're going to run, right? And so everything that's in that skill doesn't have to be trained, right?
Right.
Claude's got it.
Out of the box.
But I imagine, what's that?
It's out of the box. You hand in the box
Right.
and there's really not a lot for them to have to do. I mean, other than looking at the output and making sure it matches what you expect.
And so what I imagine is we hired them for something, right? And if they're a go-to-market consultant, I'd imagine I would hire them to run that box, open it up, check at it, and then use your go-to-market knowledge, which aligns with how you view the world to go-to-market, to say, yes, no, adjust this, tweak this, add this context from the client. And I feel like that has to be trained, right? Which is like you see go-to-market a certain way, the strategy has to align, etc. Does that judgment have to be trained?
Well, it does. Sometimes you're right. Sometimes it does come back to me, right? And it might be slightly off, or it's missing a persona of a certain type. But I will point that out and send it back, and she'll take it. She just literally run one refinement prompt, and it's fixed. It still doesn't take very much time, and all I have to do is send it back, like I said, with one comment, and she just puts it in as a refinement prompt.
Yeah. And so is the argument then that this go-to-market consultant, you need less of her time than you did before, and you don't have to train her as much? Or, yeah, I guess, is that where we're going, basically?
We'll put it this way. It never occurred to me to try to train somebody on the go-to-market like in the old days, unless I would try to hire someone who already had the talent, because it takes so long to learn. And so I'd look for someone who would have that talent. Now you're talking to somebody that's super expensive, like really expensive. And you got to hire them in advance and have enough business in the pipeline to hold on to them consistently. So you got to have some either you just bring on a big client like the size of Planet Fitness, or some series of smaller clients that you know that they're going to be able to manage. And there's massive risk in doing that. What if they mess up that relationship that you worked so hard to build? And that is the primary problem with most marketing agencies. The other problem they have is on the execution, because a lot of times and I saw this too, I've done consulting for other agencies too, where they're great at signing up the business, and they sign up a ton of new business because they got a really powerful salesperson who really understands go-to-market and is super smart and talented, but then he goes to hand it off to an execution team and the whole thing just falls apart. And you run into that issue too. So now you've got the AI now, not only to do the strategy, but it's also there to do all the checks and balances against all the tasks and all the deliverables that are supposed to be put out at a certain time and in the right order.
And so what's the role of the go-to-market consultant for you then? Is it to hit go and send it to you when it's ready? Or what do you want them to do?
Well, I see the company now as more just an extension of me, but it's just leveraged to a much higher level. So in other words, I would max out after a small handful of clients in the past. Now I can handle dozens of clients, and not only can I handle them, but I can handle them better than I did to the smaller number, because the AI is just so good at both getting all the details right, but then also mimicking the strategy and the execution of that strategy.
Yeah, got it, got it, got it. Okay, that makes sense. And the I was also I'm a go-to-market consultant as well. Um, and so I imagine then that it's um, that before. Okay, I get what you're saying. Whereas before you would have had to hire an expensive ex-management consultant who's done this a bunch and can do it on their own. Now you don't have to do that. You can hire someone offshore who, and this that management consultant could be offshore, but you can hire someone offshore who may not have that experience, but you trust them and they can run your skills for you, and just leverage you to the max.
Yeah, and they get enough of my feedback where they're going to anticipate my feedback.
Yeah.
So they'll send me a go-to-market strategy. I'll send them a few quick comments. They'll make those refinement prompts, and it comes back. But now it's at the point where they know what refinement prompts are coming, and they just do it themselves.
Yeah. Got it. Got it. That makes sense. That makes sense. And so that's that's for Bobos, right? And then you also have a social coach, right?
Correct. So out of that, one of the things I wanted to do was I knew how much time it was going to take to market Bobos on LinkedIn, which would be the primary place that I wanted to spend the time.
Yeah.
And I knew how much time it was going to take to really get engagement on there. So I developed a tool. I found myself constantly copying and pasting into ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini and saying, okay, here's what the post that I want to comment on, but here's the context. I had to put in like my resume, some of the business objectives, my marketing foundational documents, all these other things to give it context for it to then generate the right, reply. And now with the social coach, so I just programmed social coach to hold on to all that information, build it. It actually has the same tools that I have on Bobos, where it'll create a free um, customer persona, content pillars, and brand voice. It'll build that right into it. You can also upload your resume and your blog article feed. You can put in there, so it has context all the time. So now all I have to do is I'll sit there on LinkedIn. I'll see a really interesting post. I highlight it. I right click, and it just pushes that whole post automatically right over to Social Coach, which then analyzes that plus all the context and will deliver 3 to 5 different possibilities for me to then reply to. And then it has a refinement prompt. So I'll look at I'll read them all. If it's not exact, there's not something in there exactly that I want, I just refine it using the prompt. And then it's a one-click copy and paste back in. And we do that to make sure it meets all of LinkedIn's terms and conditions, right? It has to be done that way where it's a copy and paste so we don't bust any of their terms and conditions.
Yeah, LinkedIn is terrifying. I have an audience there, and anything with automations is scary on LinkedIn. They're really quick to ban, and
Yeah.
it sounds like this is a way around it.
It is like it's no different than, for instance, Grammarly is approved by
Yeah,
LinkedIn because it operates the same way. It's a copy and paste. It's not I'm reading I'm not scraping anything. I'm not reading anything behind the scenes in the browser. It is literally you highlight and copy and paste it back in.
yeah, got it, got it. That's
Which
awesome.
everybody's
That's
doing
awesome.
anyway, right? Everybody's doing that anyway.
That's awesome. And so, how can folks use this? Use Social Coach, find you, etc.
It's free. It's linked from the Bobos.ai website. It's free for the first 7 days, and it's only $6.99 a month thereafter.
Got it, got it. Bobos AI website. Sweet. And how can folks find you?
They can go to Bobos.ai and add themselves in. They can find me on LinkedIn. As you can tell, I'm very active on LinkedIn. I'm there
Yes, you are.
every day, so feel free to DM me. I'll respond back. I'm very good at getting back to messages there too.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, amazing, Nate. Thanks for joining.
Yeah, thanks so much, Brian.
Absolutely.